All right, welcome everybody. This is going to be a series where I'm going to be walking you through just some steps on how you want to start and create any application or coding project you may undertake. Um, so I know everybody is trying to get the killer app that'll be $1 billion app and everything, but you know, all great things start with a similar process in this regard. So let's get started. Where to start? And the answer to that is the requirements. You got to figure out, what are we doing? What exactly does the application need to do? What does it look like? Who's going to be using it? How will they use it? Why are they using it? And this all boils down to what they call user stories. This is a way to kind of loosely define the requirements of your project, and really you just want to keep the user in mind during every step of planning their requirements and the needs that they're going to have of the app. The next thing is you want to figure out how much time that the project will likely take and that you can devote to it. If you're working on some theoretical quantum computer type thing, well, maybe that's going to take a lot longer than, say, a simple little app that will display the time and date. So you want to be mindful of that because there's only so much time for anything. And the next thing you want to think of, how will the user be interacting with it? Are they going to be using VR goggles? Are they going to be using a desktop computer? Or is this just going to be, a background application logging things that they may not even be aware of? For instance, like software in the an electric car or something. You want to consider the environment that the user is going to be using the application in. You want to consider how the user is going to be interacting with the application. What will they be doing? Next thing you want to keep in mind is simplicity. If the application you're making is not simple to use, you may want to rethink it. The end user that is going to be using the application, they may not be very technologically inclined. So if things are not very simple to use, it's going to lead to a lot of problems for users as well as any developers that come along to support the project later on. And this all boils down to user experience. You'll see this in the industry, often abbreviated as a UX. Basically, you want to keep the user in mind for every step of the process and consider how to eliminate any uh, problems the user may end up with or any barriers to ease of use. So, not in this video, but in this series, I'm going to be going through and talking about and showing how you might apply this whole process of development for a pizza shop app. Specifically one that will be on Android because that's just what I'm more familiar with. So, the requirements. Um, these are called user stories, really. And the reason that we call them that is because, again, you want to consider what the user is doing, how they'll be doing it, and why they'll be doing it, just to keep the user in mind during every step of the process. So, the user wants to be able to order specialty pizzas, and that way they can save time and don't need to pick the toppings. That's going to be something I'll be implementing in this pizza shop app. The next one, user wants to be able to order a customized pizza. That way they can get exactly what they want. The user wants to be able to create orders for ASAP or now or a future time to get the pizza when they want it. The user also wants to be able to create orders that can be delivered or picked up so they can have options on how to acquire the pizza. So, the user stories and these requirements right now, this is the beginning of the project, and this is not going to encompass everything you would want for a full-featured pizza shop app for an actual restaurant. But this is going to, uh, be a kind of zoomed out picture of what you want, and it's going to give you an idea on how to continue for your own app. So, are we done yet? We need to talk about the definition of done. When exactly are we done with the project? Again, that comes back to the requirements. Once the requirements are done, you know, you've made the minimally viable product. That's the first iteration. This is the least necessary to be able to deploy this, to push it into production or put it in front of the public. You need to figure out what all needs to be done before the user uses it. That list of requirements is your minimally viable product requirements. The SDLC or software development lifecycle. The thing is, software doesn't really die. Software, if it's used enough, will outlive its developer, and so it doesn't really die, and development's never really done. And so the software development lifecycle, if you look that up, you'll find the pieces of it to be kind of roughly this. You need to plan everything, then you'll create what you have planned, then you'll test what you have created, and then you deploy what you have tested. But after you deploy, what will likely happen is that you will find bugs that need to be fixed, and you'll probably find new requirements that you need to add. And so at that point, you go back to planning, and then you create, then you test, and then you deploy. And it goes on and on. Another thing you'll want to keep in mind as you develop any software project is software version control. A popular tool for this is Git. It's not the only one, but it seems to be the most common one in the industry. So if you don't know anything about Git or GitHub, feel free to look that up. I may make a video on that later. But basically, what that'll do is as you go along and you program and you're making things, well, you may mess up at some point, or you may change your mind. With a software version control system or Git, you can simply roll back changes that you've made or undo that rollback if necessary. So software version control systems are very useful to have. And the bottom line is, and I've already alluded to it, we're never done with the project. For any useful software, it will likely be used over and over by many people, and it may never end. It may the project, the application may never die, and at that point, it'll be handed off to another developer at some point. And as you develop, you want to be respectful of that, and try and plan and think ahead so that the person coming after you will be able to come in more easily than not and fix things if necessary. But that kind of wraps it up here. And so again, the one thing I want to try and get across in this video is that you want to plan before you do anything in software development. You want to plan the project out. You want to plan the user interface out, which is how the user will interact with the project. You want to plan your code out. Before you write a line of code, it's often better to just write it out in plain English so that you know what you're doing. So what you always want to do, you want just remember the acronym STP. Stop, think, plan, which funnily enough kind of says stop as the acronym. After you've done that, you should be good to go to continue on.